Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. My name is Ian Cantle, and I'm joined by Jen, Ken, and Paul. And together, we are your marketing guides. Today, we'll be exploring the topic of email nurture campaigns and how they are powerful tools for influencing prospects to become customers and also influencing customers to repurchase from you. If you're not leveraging nurture campaigns to guide prospects through their buying journey, then you are missing out on a marketing powerhouse and you are losing opportunities. Ugh. So let's jump in and look at what email and text nurture campaigns are and how you can start using them today to move prospects to become customers and customers to become lifetime customers. So Jen, let's start with you. What is lead nurturing?
What is lead nurturing? So I'll talk about it mostly within email lead, the email, I guess, sandbox, if you will. But what I like to do too, because we have to remember our small business listeners aren't all, experts in marketing. So sometimes we throw around this language in marketing and forget that, some of our audience might not know what that means. So lead nurturing is the very same thing that you would do in real life when you meet somebody. So you meet somebody at a networking event, you meet Bob at a networking event. Probably you're not ready to buy from Bob. Probably you're not sure if you totally trust Bob. But if Bob makes a good impression, you're probably going to want to seek him out at the next networking event. You'll probably take calls from him. You'll probably start to, warm up and want to get to know about Bob and about his company. So in that way, you're kind of being nurtured along to learn more about Bob and his business. So the exact same way we get to know somebody or get to trust somebody in business in real life is the same way that we're talking about doing that online. So when we talk about email lead nurturing, it's the kind of thing that if you have ever, and everybody probably has, signed up for an email newsletter or an ebook or a downloadable checklist or something, and has come into somebody's email list, those subsequent emails that you get after you get your first checklist or your first ebook, that is what's being done to you is lead nurturing. So you are a potential lead, or you're a lead, but a potential customer for that business. And what they're doing is they're nurturing, warming you up, making you understand what is so different about their product or service, hopefully answering some questions that you may have about the product or service, warming you up and bringing you into their realm in order to, at the end of the sequence, hopefully turn you into a customer. Now the thing is that it's very important to be doing this, because I pulled some stats here from some of the stuff that you suggested, Ian. And there's just, of all the stats that stand out, there's two that are really, really important. If you only take away these two stats today. One is 63% of people looking for information about a company, a product, or service are not ready to buy that day. So don't be bringing in people to your email list and then feeling disappointed that they didn't purchase that day. That's, the numbers are not in your favor. However, the important thing to do have is if folks are ready to buy from you, and it says here, 3% of the market is actively buying, ready to buy. So you do want to have the opportunity for someone to book that demo with you, buy right away, because you have to remember people are at various different stages of their buying cycle when they come into you. So at a broad explanation, that is what lead nurturing is.
That's awesome.
Hey, Jen, can I dovetail on that last statistic?
Yeah, for sure.
I've heard this relate specifically to social media, but I think it also applies to email marketing or text message marketing, because it's about getting people ready to buy, or people who are ready to buy. And that is that while 3% at any given time are ready to buy, there are 15% who are really close, who just need a little bit more information. And so that's why, on social media, remarketing campaigns are so critical. On email, it's the nurture, is the remarketing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And I think it's important when we think nurture, like, I've known some clients to think, okay, nurture, okay, so let's put them into a 52-week kind of nurture cycle. And it's like, we don't have to nurture that long. They're going to come and be ready to buy at different stages. So just be aware that while some people will take a long time, some people are ready to pull the trigger today. And like Ken said, some people just need a couple of questions answered and then they're ready to go as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jen and Ken. Paul, why do we need to nurture leads? I mean, Jen touched on this a bit, but can you go a little bit deeper into that?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to timing. Most people, when they first hear about your business or you first start engaging with them, they're not ready to buy. And 80% of new leads don't actually result in a sale, and that's because there's no nurture sequence going on. And it takes about 10 touch points before someone goes from knowing about your business to actually buying. And if they're at the very top of that sales funnel, it's going to take some time to work them through from interest to trust to buy. And so a lot of it, like I said, most people, they don't start that buyer journey ready to buy something. They're trying to get information, to learn. And we've talked about content in the past. And email, if you have someone at the top of that sales funnel, so to speak, an email nurture sequence with links to blog articles or content, YouTube videos, whatever that content is, at the appropriate part of that sales funnel, is a really important way to help move people through that sales cycle. And, we've talked about this in the past, that the consumer has the power. By the time they engage with a business, they've already done a lot of their research, and you're probably on the short list of a few other businesses, and they're just deciding which one should they do business with and why. And a lot of times the business that engages with the consumer is the one that's going to get that business. I had some friends that they needed a new refrigerator, and they were dealing with a couple different businesses, and the one that they chose to go with was the one that sent them. They didn't try to get them to pull the trigger and buy so much as they sent them informational content about why the pros and cons of the different types of refrigerators and why this one is better than you. And they would send them like a quiz or a survey. What's important to you? Do you want a side-by-side refrigerator? Is a big freezer important to you? And here's the pros. Some have the freezer at the top, some have the freezer at the bottom. Here's the pros and cons of this. And that's the company that they ultimately bought from.
That's a great example, Paul. Yeah, just informing people, keeping top of mind, right? If somebody visits your website, visits your location, however they get into your circle of influence, and you're able to stay top of mind by providing valuable information, you're going to come out ahead, unless you do it so poorly that you actually create barriers to the sale. But if you're doing that, you shouldn't be, you need to work on that. But
That's hilarious.
Yeah, don't send them a link to your competitor. That's
right.
Yeah, don't do a bad job.
Right.
There is bad.
That's one of the things I was going to say. When you're researching something new as well, we have to remember that some of our leads, some of our potential clients may not know what they don't know. So this comes into, we hear so many times, oh, we've answered that question, or, that's pretty basic content. But if you put yourself in the client's shoes, they're new to buying your product or service, really at the 101 level research, they don't even know what questions or what things to be concerned about. So that's when, some of your very, very basic 101 level content is going to come in and be really, really helpful. So don't be discounting that either as they're researching you.
Yeah, but if you've never bought a dishwasher before,
Yeah.
you probably don't know anything about it. What's the difference between a $3,000 dishwasher and a $500 dishwasher?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a big difference. What was that?
Oh, there we go. $4,500, Paul. That's the difference.
Well, and what the analogy that you're both talking about is quite interesting, because you also have to remember that when, for example, with this particular buying decision, yes, they could be the only decision maker, but chances are they may have a spouse involved or a partner who would like to be, they want to be a part of this. And it's almost, if it's anything like my household, I'm a researcher. So I do enormous amounts of research into the dishwasher we got. And then it was up to me to convince my spouse that that was the right dishwasher. And part of that is being equipped by the provider of the dishwasher, maybe even the manufacturer, that these are the key features and benefits, or the color of it, which might just be the only criteria that your spouse or partner has. But the dishes have to be clean, and it's got to be silver.
There we go. That's funny. But that's true too. I think we have to also remember as well that the person researching, they most likely have to go back, internally into their household or into the organization and kind of be your salesperson. So it's got to be, we got to be able to communicate and relay the information in a way that they can remember it and take it back and, in a sense, be our salesperson for us.
And emails can be printed and they can be forwarded, right? So you can forward it on to another decision maker or whatever. The interesting, it just occurred to me, and maybe I don't think this is covering anything else that we were going to cover, but it's interesting about, I love this dishwasher analogy for some reason, because we've all been there, or a fridge, right? If you have the comfort of it not breaking down and it's just time to upgrade, the sense of urgency isn't as great. So you do more research, you have more time. But if it's urgent, your buying decision is much tighter. But you could be talking about installation services on top of that. In these communications, not only do we sell the product, we install it, and it's got a warranty and blah 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 blah. Right. So lots of opportunities there to stay top of mind, position your core difference, and grow that relationship, nurture that relationship. So Ken, how can a small business nurture leads into customers using email? It's kind of, there's been little teasers throughout this conversation so far, but maybe you can just lay it out of how this works.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of really important things. One is email marketing. Before I forget, the statistic that always blows me away is it has a return on investment of 4,400%. Tell me anything else in marketing that has that level of return on investment. So email marketing is critical. Now, email marketing, that's largely driven by, there are different kinds of emails. There are transactional emails. There are nurture emails, like what we're really focused on today. But don't let your buying bias define what you decide to do, because you are eliminating way too many potential opportunities when you do that. So it's really important to do that. A small business can, let me take a couple of examples. One would be a restaurant. You could have an offer for a restaurant that you send out in an email, and people can claim that. Okay, well, if they claim it, that doesn't mean that they've come into the restaurant and made a purchase. They just said, oh yeah, I want to get this coupon code. Okay, so if you just stop there, you don't get the sale. So what you need to do is you need to send text and or email, depending on the information that you have, to get them not only to say, I want this offer, I've claimed it, but to actually redeem it. And so, at a very simplistic level, you know, they can sign up for an offer. You might send a couple of emails to say, hey, you have 24 hours or 48 hours before your offer expires. Make sure you come on in. Or if I were me, and it were text message, I'd send them a picture of the pizza. If it was a promotion on, like a cheeseburger pizza or something. Yeah,
With
send
the
a picture of that.
cheese oozing out, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
stretching.
Yeah, and it's like, because when they see that, you can send, if you have the right text system, you can send pictures in your texts as a part of your text marketing system. And you can certainly do that with email. And again, you're trying to get people to move from the point where they're like, well, I'm interested, I'm kind of thinking about it, to the point where they're actually spending money with you. I mean, that's where you go from nurture, from a lead to a customer, is when you get that transaction of where they're spending money with you. So that's at the kind of the low end, the simple end. At the high end, let's say that you're thinking about making a major investment in buying software. You're probably, you might get somebody to say, I'm interested, I want to learn more, I'm just starting my journey, I want to read this ebook, because I need to understand what are the 5 things that I really need to make sure I'm evaluating when I'm looking at enterprise resource planning software, for example. And so you give somebody that book, that ebook. So there's a transactional email that you send, which is the asset delivery, to make sure that they get the ebook. But then you need to have the nurture series. And then, I mean, we've got some formulas that we use over and over and over again that work really well. Send something that's a problem solution, your core differentiation, testimonials from customers who've experienced success using your product. A paradigm shift. Why is your solution different than everybody else? And then ask for the sale, and build a series like that. And don't be afraid to ask for the sale. And you know what? The sale may or may not happen. Probably won't happen. But that's okay. Don't give up. Now you drop them into a long-term nurture where you keep sending email once a week, once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatever the formula is right for you. And it's going to vary based on the nature of the business and the typical transaction sizes that you have. Online stores are going to send emails much more frequently than B2B businesses that sell, $100,000 software solutions. But still, you want to get into a regular rhythm because you want to stay top of mind. And don't let this bias say, that you might have, saying, you know what, I get so many emails, I don't want to do that to somebody else. It's like, you're missing the point. The point is you need to stay top of mind, and email it's more effective than social media for any type of business. Email is more effective than social media. Social media, you're at the mercy of the algorithm of who decides what of the platform that decides who's going to get to see your content. With email, it should be delivered in their email box or inbox. Now, it might go into a spam or promotion folder depending on the nature. So you might need to give people some guidance to say, hey, make sure you whitelist our emails, so that you don't miss any important information, things like that. But still, email, that's why email has such a ridiculously fantastic return on investment, because it drives sales. But it's not just a one and done kind of a thing. If you're expecting to send that one email and get people to make a purchase and instantly become a customer, you're going to get some of that for sure, especially on the lower end ticket items. The smaller that something that you sell, the more likely it is, that maybe somebody would make that purchase because it's not a big risk to them. But if you're talking about asking people to invest thousands of dollars, you've got to stay top of mind. Don't let your own bias keep you from doing one of the best things that you can do from a marketing perspective.
And just to be clear, Ken, we're not talking about unsolicited email spam.
Correct.
The reason those percentages are so high is because when somebody opts into your list, they're making a choice at that point. So you're an invited guest, not a recurring pest, right? It's
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Another great example, if I can take just another second, is to get somebody to show up for a webinar. Look, I sign up for webinars all the time. Do I show up for 90% of the ones that I go to? No, but I want to keep my options open, right? So one of the best ways to keep your participation rates and to get people to actually show up for your webinars is to send them a text message reminder and or an email reminder to say, hey, we're starting in 2 hours. Make sure that you've got the calendar link ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just improves, and that's not a paid transaction, but it's moving somebody further along in that nurture where they're just raising their hand saying, I'm interested in this topic, I might come. Now you're trying to get them to come. Maybe getting them to come is essential to helping them take that next step to say, okay, now I'm ready to schedule a consultation. And so you've got to nurture them the entire way. You're really trying to accelerate the buying cycle as much as you can with 100% of your prospects' permission. They're going to go as fast as. And the other thing that's important to note too is always give somebody the ability to step on the gas pedal. So if you're doing like the webinar and you're in your email, have them an opportunity to say, what, I may or may not go to this webinar even though I signed up for it. Give them a gas pedal that they can step on and get immediately to that consultation or to that try offer. So you always want to include that as an element of your email, because everybody is, like Jen said, 3% of people are ready to buy now. 15% are pretty close to ready to buy. So give them the opportunity to accelerate that timeline even faster. And you can do that through an email nurture series where you're still doing the slow nurture, but have an accelerated option.
And just so everybody knows, 3 plus 15 is almost 20. And that's a bigger number, right? We can all relate to 20%.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought would be important before we move on to the next question is I don't think we've actually used the word relationship. Like we've talked about nurturing and kind of the process and why it's important, but this is all about building a relationship, right? And so Jen's example at the very beginning about building a relationship in a networking environment and then continuing that after is really relevant. So I don't want that to get lost with our viewers, listeners, because if you forget that it's a relationship that you're building, you will forget the human aspect of this, and it won't work. You'll be robotic, or you'll be so focused on conversions or transactions that you're losing sight of, I'm trying to help people here by helping them make an informed decision as best as possible. Obviously, you own the court. You can frame it in a way that's positive for your business, but don't lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Ken, you segued really well into the next question, because I think some real life examples would be helpful for our listeners to understand this concept better. So I wanted to go around our panel and each of us share some examples of email lead nurturing campaigns. And it can be email customer nurture campaigns as well. But any kind of nurturing campaigns that you guys have seen that work well, and just give an example, because I think we just want to paint a picture of what this can look like for different businesses. So Ken, why don't we start with you, because you're in my top left corner of my screen.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, for example, maybe a high-end siding contractor selling a product like James Hardie siding. That's a big ticket item. I mean, and a lot of people don't know the nuances of siding. I mean, and so if you're trying to get somebody to recognize all of the benefits, of a particular solution like that, you want to get them into that nurture series where they download an ebook to learn more about it. And then you want to send I think a 5 to 7 email nurture series is really good. Again, talk about the value proposition of the product. I mentioned this before. Talk about the paradigm shift. Why is working with you and the way you provide the solution different than everybody else? Provide backup with testimonials of satisfied customers that had that sighting, the same sighting in your customers in their own words. How did you transform their lives? I mean, marketing is about transformation. So you want to, the more that you can paint that picture of transformation, the better. And then at the end, every one of those, you want to give an opportunity to say, by the way, if you're ready to schedule a consultation, click here now, and they can go and hit that accelerator pedal and go right there. But at the end, don't be afraid to ask for the sale, and have a compelling reason of why somebody needs to take action. They may not be ready to take action yet, but the last email in the nurture series should be basically a sales email. It shouldn't be overtly sales-ish. I mean, it shouldn't be high pressure stuff, but it should create a compelling reason why they really ought to consider doing business with you. And then, like I said, it's okay if they don't take that action. Drop them into your long-term email nurture where you're sending them that newsletter once a week, once a month, twice a month, whatever it is. So that's one example. And then, the other example is, again, I think it can be a much simpler nurture. And that's the restaurant example that I used. Provide an offer, give people a reason to claim it, and then send them emails to make sure that they've come in and they've redeemed that offer. And that can be over a span of a 3 or 4 day period. And you send the initial email to let them know about the offer, and then send them two follow-up emails after they've claimed the offer to get them from just claiming it to actually making a purchase. So those are, and those formulas work across pretty much all businesses. So if you're a florist, you can do that, kind of that version of what I talked about with a restaurant. If you're a window contractor, if you're a software company, you can do more of the James Hardy siding example kind of a structure.
Those are great examples, Ken. Thank you. Paul, any examples from your side? What do you got for us?
Well, I like going back to the refrigerator example. I thought that was a really good sequence because they weren't just sending them emails about this is some of our most popular models. This is what we've seen from our customers. They were actually asking them, what's important to you? Mm-hmm. What are you looking for? And then based on that, they made recommendations. And I thought that was a really good nurture sequence.
And in the marketing world, we would call that segmentation, right? You've taken the bigger bucket of customers or prospects. They've self-identified as they want a dishwasher or a fridge. Maybe they want a Wi-Fi enabled fridge, and then, keep segmenting them down so that you can personalize the messaging as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's great. Jen, what about you? Some examples?
Sure. I've got one example I'll take you through. It's B2B software. Let's talk about that. And when I say B2B software, I mean not like Microsoft Office, software for, anything to run, I guess, a larger business. And the reason I picked that, we work a lot with those kind of clients. But one of the problems for a buyer in that area is that particularly if you go into, say, a crowded landscape, everyone kind of sounds the same. They kind of talk about their features a little bit differently. So it's really hard to get that apples to apples comparison. So yeah, the buyer can be left going, okay, I have my my short list, and I'm still not sure who's doing what. And what could be worse is sometimes these software systems say, oh, compare us to, ABC company or XYZ company or whatever. And then the chart that they compare it to obviously skews everything in one vendor's favor when they all have good quality. So come on. So that can be the confusion and the frustration that a buyer feels as they go to start embarking on, okay, what B2B software do we get for our manufacturing plant or marketing company, whatever it is. So a nurture sequence that has been successful looks like this. So they're going to be signing up for download the ebook or download a checklist or, just something at the, I start to know you. Let me get to know what this software is about. We then go into some of the problems. So some of the problems that the company or that buyer would have and how this software would solve it. So instead of going right to the features list, speeds and feeds, we go into, the problem of not seeing your finances correctly, or the problem of, XYZ always happening in the manufacturing plant. You can't see that. So the problem, and then explaining how this software could alleviate that problem. The next, I guess the next email out would be a needs analysis. So this would be something to help the buyer understand what exactly do you need? Because we understand you're being bombarded with all these features. So what exactly do you need in your business? So it would be a checklist or not really a checklist, but a bit of a quiz. That may be making it too simple, but a little bit to get the buyer to think about, okay, what are the actual problems that the software needs to solve? And then, and this is what we've done with a couple of clients. And this, as I talk about this would come from, really understanding your strategy and the tone of your business. And what I mean by that is the next one, we send out something that is, that we may not be for you list. And what that means, if there's, if you're really concerned about A or B or C, our software may not be the best for you in this situation. And that may sound counterintuitive, but one of the worst things that can happen in a software sale is, a really quick churn or customers leaving after implementation or after the first year of being with you because what they thought they bought didn't meet their expectations. So it's really important on the upfront to really clarify, we're great, we do this, we don't do this. If you want this, you should probably go there. That'll just save all kinds of heartache and all kinds of lost sales, to be quite serious. Next, we go into the sign up for the demo, a real push for that. One of the things that we had found is there's a couple of different personality types coming to a demo. So one, of course, you got your ready to buy. So that's great. You got your super apprehensive. I'm going to put my guard up right now because I know I'm going to be asked to buy at the end of this demo and I'm not buying right now. Right. So there's some anxiety around that. And then you got the people that come and just feel like, oh, I should probably go to the next step because I spent all this time there. So what we do before the demo is we have a little video that plays to explain to the person, here's what's going to happen during the demo. Here's how long it's going to take. At the end of the demo, here's what to expect. And depending on the company, we will be asking for the sale. We won't ask for the sale. There's no pressure. So it really sets up the expectation. So, if you're going to invest your 45 minutes or so in a demo, this is what this is what to expect. And with that, they found that it was the folks coming to the demo, even if they weren't ready to buy, they were definitely, a worthy lead that needed more nurturing, but they were in a much more open mindset and much more ready to, pursue the sales process with that. So anyways, that's it's a bit long-winded, a bit complicated, but that's been a nurture sequence that has worked for that type of product.
That's awesome. And it's interesting. You brought up the idea of education in the buyer realm. And I don't have stats in front of me, but it's very commonly understood, not just in the marketing world, but the business world in general, that an educated buyer is a better buyer, right? So the what you talked about there, Jen, and Paul and Ken, you talked about this as well, is that you're essentially educating your potential buyers, which
Yeah. Well, so I mean, one of the nurture sequences that we have is because we take a very holistic approach. I think we all do to SEO. It's a total online presence kind of a mindset for SEO, right? There are a lot of people who sell SEO as a one-dimensional thing, and that one-dimensional thing, they sell it really cheap, and the novice buyer doesn't necessarily know any better because why would they? They don't have the knowledge and expertise or access to some of the information easily that maybe they need to. And that typically is just the on-page SEO. Ooh, cool. I get title tags, I get meta descriptions, I might get, 500 words of copy. Maybe I've got, good things here or there. But the on-page, well, that's not really a multi-dimensional holistic approach to SEO. So when somebody interacts with, any of our pieces of content, we'll send them information about the role reputation plays, the role social plays, the role directories play, the role, that technical SEO plays, the things that are not necessarily obvious and behind the scenes, which could be like page load speeds or, inbound links or, care and feeding of fixing broken stuff on the background. Anyway, behind the scenes of your website, in a way to try to educate people, so that they understand, okay, when I'm thinking about SEO, I really need to be thinking about more than just this one-dimensional thing that this other person is talking to me about. And if, because that's a much, much, much better client for us. And I want to provide, I love educating, and we can point them to, I think we've got links in these emails that send them to watch this webinar or recording that we've done that explains, in 30 minutes, what is reputation marketing? What is, how does social media feed into the SEO beast to amplify your results? So yeah, I mean, education's huge.
Yeah. Let me share a few as well, guys.
No.
I was thinking, okay, I'm going to anyways. Although you have control on that side, Ken, so you can mute me if you want. But these are specific to dentists, but I think they work in any healthcare field. And I think they're also applicable to any business. But one we call the stagnant patient reactivation campaign. So as you can imagine, there's lots of reluctant patients in dentistry. I'm actually one of those, even though I love my dentist.
Wow.
I bear the scars of bad childhood dentist experiences. So, but this is a way where the dentists, they have this rolling year, right? And they can say, okay, we haven't seen, this list of patients within, 8 to 12 months, man, we got to get them back in here. Obviously, they can pick up the phone. That's very labor intensive, and a lot of them do that. But you can also either layer that on with a reactivation campaign, which is proven to be extremely powerful in the medical field. Another one is related to benefits. If people have benefits and they go to a dentist or any kind of practitioner, really, from October to December, there should be nurturing to your whole client base, patient base, saying, now is the time to use up your benefits. Because if you don't use them, you lose them, right? And then funny enough, between January and March, you should be talking about, hey, your benefits just rebooted. Get in here, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The last example I wanted to share, because this one's, I think because of, Ken, you talked about people's biases. There's this bias against e-newsletters in the world in general, business world in general. But I would say even in the marketing world, some marketers hate e-newsletters. But here's the thing. They actually work. So as a real life example, we do this for our clients, whether they're in dentistry or any other business. But one of the examples I love is every time we send out a monthly newsletter on behalf of our dentists, funny enough, the day of and 3 days later, we're seeing form completions come through like crazy, like book me for an appointment, book me for an appointment. So in essence, it's a way of reactivating people because you're staying top of mind. If they love you, they're going to be like, why haven't I been back to see Dr. Joe? So and my teeth are feeling, you could always say, do you feel that gunky furry feeling on your teeth? Get in here, so but it works. And so I think those are really great ways to leverage email.
Yeah, those are great examples, Ian.
Especially the furry teeth, right?
Yeah. And that'd be a great visual to show.
Yeah.
That's actually true. I'm going to be searching for that. Well, guys, thanks for sharing those examples. Jen, if I can get through this question without coughing some more.
That's okay.
Using the Marketing Hourglass as a framework for the buyer's journey, can you help us understand some of the most common stages that email nurture campaigns can be used to help people in their journey to buy from you?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So the Marketing Hourglass, know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, refer. We should have our little thing up there, but I think it's edged in all our minds by now, isn't it? So anyway, it just as a review, the Marketing Hourglass is something that was invented by John Jantsch of Duct Tape Marketing. And the importance of it is we often talk about a sales funnel, and then the sale being where the funnel starts. So this is like a double-edged funnel, has the shape of the Marketing Hourglass, and really makes us think that the sale is not the end of the relationship with the customer. You want the repeat sale, you want referrals. And so that's how that came about. So as a framework here, so the know stage, of course, I mean, it sounds obvious, but people have to know about your business, your company, your product in order to start to understand, would it be a good product or service for me? So that's where the awareness comes in. You got to be out there, promoting yourself. So they have to know about you. They have to know enough about you to want to get closer to you, to want to sign up for your email newsletter, to want to sign up for that checklist, to want to sign up for something to get to know a little bit more about the product or service. So that would be in the like stage. So that first sign up for the email newsletter, first sign up for the ebook, the checklist. Now that they're in the cycle, know, like, trust. So you have to start ensuring that the subsequent emails that come out to them help to build trust with your product, your service, your brand, your team, with that person. And that could be information about how long you've been in business, how many customers you have, what the product depth is. I mean, you're still staying, a little bit lighter on everything because you're still trying to build that relationship. Now you come down to the try stage. And try would be some kind of low cost, low risk offer, low risk, low time period. So it's not a huge commitment for the lead. If they are unsure or if it turns out not to be a good fit, it's not a great commitment on either side. However, it turns out to be an excellent fit. It's a really good taste of what you can do for them. So for us, all of us on the call here, we do have that TOPA, so the Total Online Presence Audit. So that for us, within 7 days, we do a complete analysis of your online presence with your company and be able to give you reports back on where you're winning, where you need to pull up your socks, and where we can help. Typically, it's 7 days and typically under $1,000. So for a lot of businesses that we work with, that's the kind of thing that would be like, okay, within 7 days, I know whether I want to work with you guys or not. That's great. On day 8, if we're in, we can go forward. If day 8, we don't want anything to do with each other, it's 7 days and away you go. So think about that in your business, products, services, consultations, that kind of thing. What's something low? And when I say low value, I mean low cost value. We're not talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but something where someone can put up a little bit of risk and just try you out. Next stage would be the buy stage. So depending on what it is, you're either going to have the person buy the product or service online, or they're going to have to come into the store or get it shipped to them or whatever it is. And then after that, you want to make sure that they're happy with their purchase, and then go to the repeat stage, which would be, if it's if it's a, I was going to say, if it's a consumable, how often are they going to repeat buy? If it's a subscription, how often does your subscription renew? And then the referral as well. So how happy have they been? How satisfied was your product or service to solve their problem? And could they refer to friends, families, colleagues, business partners, your product or service?
That's awesome. The the thing that comes to mind about the buy stage, the post buy stage, is that we all sometimes have buyer's remorse depending on what we bought. The bigger the purchase, the more remorse possible, right? So I think that's a really key stage too that people forget about, because the business is so fixated on we won, they're dinging the bell in the sales office, and they forget that it's a relationship and that they need to reinforce the value of what the person just invested in. Software companies are actually very good at this usually, because once you purchase a subscription to their software, you're getting email tutorial, like links to tutorial videos. You're getting, reinforcement of the benefits. Don't forget to do this, onboarding, quick tips, that kind of stuff. And also when you mentioned referral, one of the things that comes to mind for me that's just like a slam dunk, and we don't really think of it as a nurture sequence, but it is, and that's the review funnel. Is, when we're asking satisfied customers to leave us reviews, we often call it a drip campaign, but it is a nurture campaign where you're trying to, just express to them, we really want to hear, what your experience has been. And if you share it with others, we would really appreciate that. Right. And usually it's a multi-touch type experience. Thanks, Jen. I know that was a lot to walk us through, but I think it's really important because email can be used at so many stages that are valuable.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, what are the different parts of an email lead nurture campaign?
Yeah, we've kind of touched on them. I guess we haven't put them in order, so to speak. But first, I have a purpose. A lot of times, if you're selling software, you might send the first email. You might send out an ebook that they can download and read, and that talks about your product, how it can benefit you or your company. Personalize the greeting in the subject line. Don't send out generic emails. Address their pain points. Send out another second email that addresses their pain points and how your product or service can solve that problem. Then send out another email that includes testimonials. Then send out another email that maybe compares your product to the competition, and then can mention this. The final email should be a call to action. Ask for the sale, and maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But if it happens, great. And then keep in mind that's not the end of the process. And if it doesn't, then you put them into a long-term sequence. But it kind of varies depending on the business. Like Ken had mentioned, a restaurant. You're probably not going to have a 7 email sequence for a restaurant, unless your appetizers are $100 a plate. That might be different.
Yeah.
So for a catering example, you might. But
that's a great. Yeah.
But for for just to get somebody to come in and buy one cheeseburger, get one at half price or something like that. You're right, Paul.
And if we were to, so that's kind of a campaign level view. If we were to zoom in and look at actually a particular email, right? You've got your list, you've got your subject line, you've got your body, right? So, what are you going to talk about? You've got your call to action, which I think a lot of people forget to include, and I think you called that out already. But then you have to have an unsubscribe link as well for canned spam and all the different.
I was saving that for the panel discussion.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
You can just repeat it, and you'll repeat it better than
But yeah,
how
you do have to have. That's a good point. You do have to have an unsubscribe link, because even if people have opted in, if they can't unsubscribe, they may just wind up marking it as spam, and
Yep.
you don't want that to
I
happen,
don't want that. No.
And why don't you want that to happen, Paul?
because it can. Too many people marking your emails as spam can get your domain or your IP address blacklisted, or both, and that's a pain in the ass to clean up.
And that that leads to non-deliverability, right? Like
Right.
your emails won't be able to be delivered as much. Yeah. Sorry, I was doing it in such a leading way.
You
This
assert
is the answer I want you to say, Paul. Ken, I think this leads really well into how can marketing automation be leveraged? Because we've been kind of talking about sequences, but I think this is a really prime opportunity for businesses to leverage marketing automation. So maybe talk a little bit about that and how it can be used for lead nurture.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to look at the different kinds of things that email nurture can do for you. And we've talked a lot about them, but I'm just going to kind of, call them out specifically. Indoctrination. We've talked about that. When somebody signs up for your newsletter, they download an ebook, they get onto your list, or they become a customer, you want to send them a series of messages that tell them what to expect next. And so you can and probably should automate that. And as Paul mentioned, use personalization. That if you're using a credible software solution, to automate your emails, you're going to be able to pull in their first name automatically. You can ask people, if they've taken that first step, you can use an email series to get them to take that next step. To maybe you've downloaded this ebook, maybe you're interested in learning about this webinar, and so you can kind of work on engagement and kind of moving them in a broader circle. You can also refine that circle by asking, sending a series of questions that get them to self-identify and segment themselves, as we've talked about with the dishwasher, or the appliance scenario. It's like, I'm only interested in, black finishes. And so don't send me any information about any dishwasher that's not got an option for black as its color. They can self-identify, and you should respect that, and you should take that opportunity. Quizzes are a great way to do that. So sending an email to drive somebody to a quiz to get them to self-identify, and then build an email nurture series. You may have, personality types, identify personality types. There might be, you should write a series for each one of those personality types that is a nurture campaign that takes them to the logical place of where they're going to be taking that relationship, as the word you used, Ian, from just being a lead to the point where they're ready to become a customer. Re-engagement or reactivation is huge. All of these can and should be automated. They're, whether if it's for one person at a time, chances are the campaign structure and the messaging is the same over and over and over again. Don't and by automating it, you're making sure that it's not falling through the cracks. So it's hugely important to do this. And if you're not using marketing automation in this day and age, you're missing a huge opportunity. I guarantee you're leaving a lot of money on the table of business that you could close if you built out intelligent automated marketing campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. And just if I can zoom out even a little bit more and just say, like, marketing automation at its simplest is a smart system that says, if the person does this or says this or is tagged with this, do
Right.
this, right? So,
Right.
and then you can have multiple workflows that say, or sequences that say, send this, these 7 emails. And
Right.
then at the end, it's a choose your own adventure, right? If they select something, send them somewhere else. If they don't, send them to just a long-term nurture. So it
Yeah.
really does simplify the business side of it as well.
Exactly. For example, on our website, we have 50, the 50 top questions search for local search the people should ask or do ask. And so if somebody downloads that, then I'm going to drop them into that SEO email nurture series that I described, because I want to work with people who get the importance of doing SEO from a holistic perspective. But then I've also got like an ebook on my website somewhere, I'm sure, that is about text message marketing for insurance agents. How can you use text message marketing effectively as an insurance agent? And so I'm going to send a completely different automated email series nurturing people who download that ebook than I would the SEO people. So, so use your segmentation, and then marketing. The great thing about marketing automation is you can clone the structure, so you might have the 7 emails that you would send to either one of these 2 people who downloaded these 2 completely different topical, ebooks, but the structure of the campaign: send this message and then wait 2 days, and send this message and wait 3 days and send this message. And you may already have those high-level messages defined in terms of the theme of the message. You have to go in and change the guts of it, but you've got your campaign structure. So again, I know you love this term. It's a force multiplier. Marketing automation is a force multiplier.
I just used that in a presentation yesterday, Ken. I need to have like a little picture of you beside it. Hey, panel, this all sounds really great. And I think it's become clear that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in email nurture campaigns. I thought a great way to finish off, we're coming up to the end of the hour, but let's go around the panel and each guide can share their tips for businesses in getting started in this valuable marketing strategy. So Jen, I'm going to start with you, and we'll go Jen, Paul, Ken.
Okay. If you're just really at the very basics of getting started, what I would recommend is start with a company newsletter. And I would recommend that because an expectation of a company newsletter is generally monthly or quarterly. And so you won't have the pressure of having to get something out every single week. As well, it'll give you the breathing room to get started with your email automation. Even if you're starting with something very basic, say a MailChimp, in order to send out the email, it'll give you the opportunity to look at your analytics, get comfortable with that. What does open rate mean? What does it mean to get going? What does it mean to collect content, to be putting in the newsletter every month? And after you get comfortable and into a groove with that, going to something more sophisticated will be a lot easier, because you will have that basis of understanding, okay, what kind of content needs to go in, what kind of cadence do we have to do, like what do we expect, and how are we going to speed this up, and also narrow it down for certain products or services. So I would say, if you're at the very beginning, a monthly company newsletter, run that for a quarter, and then start to see how you can ramp up your email nurture campaigns.
Great one. Thank you, Jen. Paul, over to you.
Well, since you stole my thunder,
I'd
say a couple of things. First of all, don't abuse it. Don't send people 3 emails a day. I know we all see that all the time, and you send me 3 emails a day, even if you have an unsubscribe link, I'll probably mark it as spam at that point. And have a focus on one thing in that sequence. Don't try to market, sell, whatever word you want to use, 3 or 4 different things in the same sequence. Focus on one thing. Don't confuse people. I think those are the 2 biggest things I'd say.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Ken?
And have an unsubscribe link.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say build your list. If you don't have a list, you've got a list. You just need to pull it together. So, look through your Outlook or your Gmail, whatever you're using for your business, and build your list with people who are regularly interacting with you. You look at your invoicing software. If you're sending electronic invoices out by email, you've got a list. So take advantage of that, start pulling it together and using it, and then work on a strategy of building your list. Give people a reason to opt in, make it easy for them to opt in. So have options on your website, ask people through social media, move people off of social media onto email. We've talked about how more, I think I read a statistic the other day that email is 20% more effective at reaching people than social media because again, you're not at the mercy of an algorithm that decides what copy it's going to deliver in somebody's newsfeed. So leverage, if you've got a good following on social media already, get those people off of social media and to join an email newsletter or sign up for an offer so that you can get them to opt in and give you permission. The other thing is keep sending, because email addresses go bad really fast. People change companies. So if it's a company email, the company email, when they change companies, that email goes bad. If they are personal emails based on the nature of what you're selling and who your ideal customers are, every time somebody switches phone providers or internet service providers, there's a good chance that their email address is changing. So email addresses, if you don't keep sending on it, and this is why Jen's point about sending a regular, at least monthly email newsletter, that keeps your list clean and pure. And that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Ken. And thank you, panel. I think this is a great place to wrap up. Thank you, Ken, Paul, and Jen, for sharing your thoughts on this important topic. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. I hope you found this topic valuable. And because we broke the hour mark, just so you know, you can speed up podcasts and make us sound like chipmunks, and you get through it faster. So, that's an option as well. So please share this link with other businesses or colleagues or friends or family who could benefit from it. And until next week, keep calm and market on.